Hey guys, started working. I got up this morning. I saw that my last video actually made it without a problem onto the YouTube site. So I went ahead and what I'm doing is this. I'm actually working on my 28mm, the 1st Regiment of the Dutch Carabiniers. So I'm working on those guys there, and I know that in that last video I kind of like really zoomed by these guys too quickly. So just a rehash of what I'm doing here. This is the 132nd guys. These are my Brits, the Line, the Highlanders, and then the Imperial Guard over there. I've got 2 units with command, and then I have French line artillery there, and then I've got the British line artillery here and some horse. And I've got so many different Waterloo books and stuff, but when I was looking up these guys, I wanted to see what their horse were, and so it took me a little bit, but I've got the white horses there, but I wanted to see what their kits were for their saddles and stuff, and it's much like the French. They're fashioned after the French, so I'll end up using that right there as my guide for my horses for my carabiniers. And it's interesting because when I was looking up the information for these guys, the British accounts of the Dutch and Belgian cavalry weren't too good. It's like they didn't do anything at all. So in my little reference, trying to figure out what I'm going to do with this cavalry, I come across something. Now, I usually read a lot about Waterloo, and my impression was that at the end of Waterloo, Napoleon just took off in a panic, and that's basically how I left it. And then one of my Waterloo books, this is edited by Lord Chalfont, and this book, Waterloo, reveals for the first time from the point of view of the 3 armies involved: the English under Wellington, the French under Napoleon, and the Prussians under Blucher. And this book by Alfred A. Knopf, which is Kilo November Oscar Papa Foxtrot. So I want to read something to you guys that I thought was pretty interesting. But whoops. That's the gentleman that wrote this book, and on chapter 16 it says the aftermath, and I'm just gonna kind of quickly read through that. Now, my impression was Napoleon just took off and the whole army just fell apart, which I guess from Waterloo down to Gnap, they had a hard time. The Prussians went right after them and really cut them down. And I never went further than that, because I believe that Napoleon had just went right to Paris and then abdicated, and that was it. It was all done. So this is what I picked up on this. It says, at 11 p.m. on 18th June, Napoleon, with his depleted staff and Guards battalions, reached Gnap, where he was hoping to rally some of his retreating troops. But the disorder was appalling, and all his efforts were in vain. The Prussians were relentless in their pursuit, bent on destroying the French army in full retreat. They gave no quarter and took no prisoners. The men belonging to the corps of Lebeau and Derelon, to the divisions of Damont, Sebriere, and Gilconet, and to the young guard were sabred, bayoneted, or shot mercilessly. French cavalrymen shot their horses and then committed suicide rather than fall into the Prussian hands. 5,000 to 6,000 men of Riel's corps marching on Genappe were killed or dispersed by constant Prussian attacks. Finding it impossible to organize a defense, Napoleon rested his hopes on Girard's division of the third of the 2nd Corps, which he had left on the battlefield at Linné, and to which he had sent orders to march on Courtebras, so as to back up the retreat. He left him at Courtebras so as to back up the retreat. Napoleon left for Courtebras on horseback, entrusting to Duchamp and a handful of soldiers the defense of Genappe, which was soon captured by the Prussians. They seized the Emperor's personal carriage containing a change of clothes, a toilet case, a sword, folding iron, a camp bed, as well as diamonds worth 1,000,000 francs. Duchamp was wounded as he was about to be taken prisoner. Blucher visited him and recommended him to his own personal surgeon, but this brave French general died of his wounds the next day. Napoleon arrived at Courtebras at 1 a.m. on 19th of June. He expedited an officer to tell Goucher that the battle had been lost at Mont-Saint-Jean and to order him to retreat on Namur. Until that moment, Napoleon had kept his composure, standing up in a frozen attitude, his arms crossed on his chest, looking intently in the direction of Mont-Saint-Jean. During this rare moment of solitude, but that night he was having a light meal in the woods in front of a brazier. Silent tears ran down his face. Of Girard's division there was no sign. General Niguet was at Courtebras in charge of an artillery reserve depot with a small escort. A few hundred horses were rallied, and with them Lebeau organized a rear guard. The remnants of the 1st and 2nd Corps were retreating on the Marchiennes Bridge, and the guard and the 6th Corps towards Charleroi. Napoleon sent Prince Jerome to Marchiennes to rally an army between Avesnes and Marlborough. Napoleon went to Charleroi. Arriving at 6 a.m., he stopped for an hour on the left bank of the Somme to send out more orders, and then rode to Philippeville. We arrived at 9 a.m. As to be able to be in communication with Grouchy easily. He stayed there for 4 hours and then went by carriage to Laon, arriving at 7 p.m. on the 20th of June. Ney had been dragged away from the battlefield at Mont-Saint-Jean by a corporal joined Napoleon and placed one of his own aides-de-camp, Count de Bussy, in charge of defending the town, and sent Count de Jean de Guy to Guy and Flahant, his main English interpreter, to Avesnes. Dispatches from Prince Jerome reported that he had rallied more than 25,000 men and about 50 cannon behind Avesnes. That Morand was now commanding the foot guard in Colbert, the guard cavalry, and that most of the generals had now arrived with more than half their artillery. 170 guns had been lost, but men and horses had arrived at Avesnes. Soult was ordered by Napoleon to set up general headquarters at Laon and the point of reunion for the army. Goucher was ordered to rally there from Namur, and Prince Jerome from Avesnes. That's really tough for me. The Prussians, exhausted by the pursuit, had stopped at Fresnes, and the army's rout had been stemmed, and the French forces were getting organized again. Paris was only 12 hours away from Lyon, and Napoleon decided to return to the capital, where he arrived on the 21st of June. He planned to use the next few days to organize the defense of Paris and to alert Lyon and the provinces, and then return to the army at Lyon on the 23rd and 24th. He was hoping by that time Goucher would have rallied there with his army corps, while the provincial forts and strongholds, which he had left well-equipped and well-manned, particularly in Flanders, would put up a good resistance to the advancing enemy. So I thought that was pretty interesting. And then it goes into Goucher and his fighting withdrawal from Wavre all the way back to Lyon. And he ends up arriving at Lyon on the 26th of June with 32,000 men, 6,500 with cavalry, and 108 cannon. It says, after a most remarkable retreat, he had finally reached Wavre on the 18th of June, attacked the rear guard of Zieten's corps, and as it was on its way to join Boileau and perch at Saint-Labat, they attacked and beaten Bellman's corps at Wavre and taken the town on the 19th. And of course, at that time, the battle for Waterloo was actually happening. Well, it was already done by that time. Wow. Ain't that something? So yeah, so I always got the impression that Napoleon just hightailed it out of there. But he actually tried to put together his army as it was falling back. But because the Prussians were following so closely behind, the French really never had a chance to gather their wits about him until Fasnes. Wish there was some maps on that I could see, but it would be pretty cool to follow. But yeah, that was pretty interesting. So I hope you guys are doing well. I'm gonna try and get these guys done. Working on those guys, and not bad. And motivated to paint up again, and we'll see what we can get done. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed it, and take a look at my my workbench here. Nice and slow, so you can see what I've been doing. You know, I like collecting the AFX boxes, and I've been trying to rearrange. See what we got going on here. Oh, it's not too bad. This is one of my favorite sets right there. Alright, guys, thanks for watching. You can all take care. Happy wargaming. And like I always say, I'll see you out there, and be good to each other. It's good to see you. Ciao.